Game week 29 is around the corner, and it means one thing: the most important decision us FPL managers have to make, the captaincy. In this video, I've got 3 viable candidates. Depending on your risk appetite, where you are in the league, and your overall rank, one is going to be for you. Before we get into it, drop a like, subscribe, share the video. Now you've done that, let's get into it. The first captaincy option we're going to look at and is Son. And here's the reasons why it's Son. Spurs have scored 59 goals this season, which is the 4th best in the Premier League. Son has scored 14 of those goals, which is a 24% involvement rate. That's a perfect ratio. Anything above 20% starts reaching the elite players. Only the elite players can return at that ratio. When you add the 8 assists, that buffs that return ratio nicely. The last 5 returns, he excels. 17 mega haul, 7, 2, 4, 9. So that's 4 returns from the last 5. Super consistent. What do you expect from a player like Son? 166 points. He's having a great season. 6.9 he's averaging per match this season, which is the second out of the midfielders. Again, just sums up what a player he is. Next fixtures, this is when it gets interesting actually. So he's got Fulham away. Fulham away's last 3 matchups between Fulham and Spurs is it's a clean sweep actually. Spurs have won all 3, 2-0, 1-0 and 2-1. So that's pretty good. Looks pretty good for the matchups there. Sometimes you get, for some reason, certain teams, they just don't bode well against other teams. In this case, it looks pretty good for Spurs. But let's have a look at the opponents in a bit more detail. Fulham have conceded 44 goals. That's the 8th worst in the Premier League this season. Not too shabby. They've lost 13 times in the Premier League so far, and they've played 14 home games. They've won 8, drawn 1, and lost 5. Again, not too shabby at all. Let's have a look at the second captaincy option. Yes, I've gone for Ivan Toney. Now, his numbers are not going to stack up perfectly. Of course, he's missed the majority of the season with that ban. But let's have a quick look anyway. Brentford have scored 40 goals. It's the 12th best in the season. But like I said, him not being there, he's their main goal scorer. So they would have been higher up if he was playing from the start of the season. He's got 4 goals, which is 10% ratio. You could argue that's not too bad considering he's hardly played. He's got 1 assist. Now, the last 5 returns looks really grim. In fact, when he came back from the ban, he looks pretty good. He looks on it, but since then it has calmed down. It's a combination of Brentford's form hasn't helped at all. 2, 2, 2, 1, 6. It's 1 return from 5, so the consistency is not there at all. 39 points, again, can't look too much detail. He's hardly played. Still averaging 4.3, which is 9th out of the forwards. Not too bad, eh? Next fixtures, now this gets interesting again. It's always your opponents. It's all good looking at the stats of the player you're thinking about, but the opponents are just as important. So they've got Burnley away. The results between these two, pretty interesting as well. So it's a 3-0 win for Brentford, 2-0 win, and a 3-1 loss. So it's 2-1. So they're up on that on the last 3 matchups. But let's have a look at a bit more detail with Burnley. Burnley have only won 3 matches this season. It tells you how poor a team they are. They've also conceded 62 goals this season. That's the 2nd worst in the Premier League. And they've also conceded 3 or more goals 11 times this season. So that tells you again, there's potential for Toney to haul here. When they concede, they don't concede just 1 or 2, they concede 3 or more. They're a poor defensive outfit. Let's have a look at captaincy option number 3. And that is super consistent Mr. Ollie Watkins. Again, he finds himself in this list. It tells you what season he's having. Let's have a look a bit more detail. Aston Villa have scored 59 goals. They're 4th joint actually for the goals scored in the Premier League. He scored 16 of those goals. So it's 27% ratio. That's a ridiculous ratio. Normally only Haaland and Salah are in them figures there, and they're 30%. Ollie's there. It tells you how good of a season he's having. It means if Villa score, more than likely, you don't have to even check SofaScore or whatever your app you're using, he's involved. Add the 15 assists. That's bonkers. Ridiculous season. That buffs that ratio up to a ridiculous amount. So he has to be in consideration. Last 5 returns, have a look at this. 2, 13, 9, 13, 2. So that's 3 returns from 5, but 2 double-digit returns, nearly 3. It tells you he's heavy hitting. He's not just returning 6s and 7s. He's getting double-digit returns, which makes captaincy even more powerful when you go with someone like Ollie. 185 points. If I'm right, he's the highest scorer in FPL at the moment. 6.6 per match he's averaging, which is 2nd out of the forwards. I think only Haaland ahead of him. Next fixtures. Now, again, let's have a look in a bit more detail. He's got West Ham away. The matchups between these two is a 4-1 win, 1-1 draw, and a 1-0 loss. So it's pretty even there. Nothing to see. But let's have a look a bit more detail with West Ham. West Ham have conceded 49 goals this season, which is the 15th worst in the Premier League. It's not that great. West Ham have played 14 home games in the Premier League and they've won 6, drawn 5, lost 3. It's the 11th best record in the Premier League. In those 14 home games, they conceded 21 goals. So you can see they do leak goals at home. Something for Ollie Watkins. I hope you enjoyed that video, but more importantly, I hope you found the video useful. Get in the comments and let me know who you captaining. Is it one of the candidates in the video, or have you got someone else? Is there a differential I've missed? Before you jump off to your next video, do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe, share the video, press that bell icon so you know when my videos are out. Last thing for me to say is I wish you good luck and see you on my next video.